For my presentation, I chose studies 1 and 3 and 6 to explain the second question, how the concepts from each of these studies relate back to my everyday experiences and interactions. Study 1 was by Kristen Ware and was called Why We Believe in Alternate Facts. When I first heard the study, I was surprised about what Kristen Ware had discovered, that humans had a tendency to believe facts so long that it was beneficial to them, and a tendency to not believe in facts if it didn't coincide with he or she's views. Where it continued on to explain how she proved her study. She said that she told one half of her patients that they had pancreatic disorders, and she told the other half that they didn't have the disorder. She found that those who were supposedly tested positive for the disorder were more likely to rate the test as less reliable. After watching the study, I began to compare it to my own life. I realized that I did this on a day-to-day basis without even realizing it. Specifically, while interacting with others, I tended to believe that a person was lying when it didn't seem beneficial to me, while believing supposed facts that supported the mental concepts that I had created were facts. In a particular example, after my friend had told me that bananas were berries and that strawberries weren't, I was particularly shocked. I couldn't believe it because it went against my mental concept that told me that bananas were fruits. In fact, it told me quite the opposite. Study 3 was by Shankar Vedantam, and his study was called Instead of Showing Off Wealth, Some Show Off Busy Schedules. Shankar's study was by far the most surprising to me. This was because I did this the most compared to all of the other studies that we researched about. His study was discovering that some people show off how busy they are to show off status. This was a breakthrough in psychology because previously showing off wealth was the only way that people knew how status was shown. This came as a personal shock to me because I had, after watching the study, realized that everyone that I knew, including myself of course, had done this. From a young age, I realized that many of my friends' parents asked me what my extracurriculars were. Although I did not realize that why they were asking me this, I was able to understand why after hearing Shankar's studies. They were subtly trying to determine how busy I was to classify my social status. Although they might have done this without realizing it themselves, it was clear to me that they were at least doing it subconsciously. The last study, number 6, was by Phuc Tran and was called Grammar, Identity, and the Dark Side of the Subjunctive. Unlike the other two studies, Tran's study was something that I found that used to correct my behavior and improve my optimism and feelings of happiness. Chan found out that the English language was one of the few languages that contained the sentence structure to explore one question. What if? This one question Tran described is something not all cultures have and allows the English language and other subjunctive languages to explore creatively and what he calls an alternate future. However, it also unconsciously makes us ponder over bad situation and makes us constantly wonder what we could have done differently, thus decreasing our optimism and happiness. After hearing this, I decided to make a change. I began to limit how much I use the subjunctive after a bad situation. Knowing that the subjunctive was a double-edged sword that could decrease my self-esteem, I stopped trying to answer the question, what if? This particularly came useful after a bad test that I took a couple weeks ago. Instead of trying to ask myself, what if I studied harder? I decided to move on with life and study harder for the next one. All three studies have helped me by either allowing me to realize what I was currently doing or make me a better person as a whole. After listening to all three, I can clearly notice a difference in my thinking. In each of the situations that the studies focused on, I can see a clear difference in my thoughts, actions, and feelings. It is easy to see that these three studies have subtly changed my perspective on psychology. Thank you.